Well, okay, thanks, and welcome again to the next installment of the Maximum Performance webinar series. Of course, we started this series originally with the goal and purpose of creating an engaged and active learning environment for top originators who really wanted to grow their business. And of course, this is launched by and managed by the Maximum Performance and Maximum Acceleration Coaching team. Of course, we've been, since 2004, we've been helping originators get from where they are to where they want to go much faster. We launched this series back in October of 2012 with the express goal of bringing a community of learning together where people could get great ideas from great presenters who have a significant level of success in their craft and in their industry, and have a unique perspective and a unique set of strategies to share with our audience that can really help us take our relationships and our business to the next level. And Mr. Stan Wang is our guest presenter for today. Mr. Wang began his career in the mortgage business in 1976. He's held a number of different positions, ranging from even upwards of regional vice president with a banking organization. But then in 1994, started his own mortgage brokerage in the Scottsdale, Arizona area called the Advantage Mortgage Group. Since then, he and his team have been providing a high caliber of service for now going on 20 years, and he's become a true master in the art of relationship management with his customers and really developing that high level of connectivity and involvement with his past customers and existing mortgage customers, building a truly service-driven perspective. And one of the things that really drew me to Stan is how far he went to go above and beyond and provide, even in an area of services that are in no way directly compensating him, just to meet the needs of his consumers. And it's that service-driven, service-first mindset that it really, Stan is probably the best I've found in the industry of exemplifying what that really looks like and how that can develop a strong, extremely profitable business. So I want to welcome to the call Mr. Stan Wang. And Stan, we're going to be going through a number of different topics today. And for those of you listening on the audience, it's going to be a fairly interactive type of interview style program today. So Stan, I guess the first thing to get started is just, as I've given you a brief introduction here, why don't you give us a little bit of a snapshot of your background? What are some of the experiences that you've had through the years, and just kind of tell us a little bit of your background story, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, happy to. I started out in the business in 1976 after I completed a bachelor's degree in economics and also a master's in business from Arizona State University. And I just kind of got into the business, like most of us, quite by accident. A friend of mine got into it, was telling me about how great it was, and it sounded good to me, so I decided, well, why not? I'll just go and be a loan originator. It should be pretty easy. Obviously not the case, but I started originating back in 1976. Did that for about a year. Then the company wanted me to open a branch for them in Tucson a year later, so I did that. Ran the branch for a few years, and then had an opportunity to be a regional manager with a couple of different companies, and did that for about 10 years. And then, like you mentioned, I opened up the Advantage Mortgage Group as a mortgage brokerage shop in 1994, and have been doing that ever since.
Nice. All right. So as you've grown and evolved, obviously you've shared with me behind the scenes in preparation for today's event and some of the other things that we've done together in conjunction with the NAM National Conference and those kind of things. One of the things that I was very quickly impressed with you in respect to is how you have taken your relationships to such a deep and engaged level over the years with your clients. So I guess the next question I wanted to ask you or invite you to share with our audience, by the way, audience, don't forget you're more than welcome to chime in here and ask questions to Stan as we go through today's program. We will be stopping for Q&A a little bit later in today's program, and definitely want to get feedback and guidance. But Stan, what are some of the things that you've done over the years to really take those relationships to that extremely deep level and engage them the way that you've shared with me in the past? Why don't you share with our audience some of the unique things that you're doing?
Well, it's kind of started out back when I was a regional manager for Graham Mortgage back in the early 80s, and one of the things that I was tasked to do at our national sales conference was to make a presentation on what made a successful originator. And much like Napoleon Hill interviewed successful people for his classic book, Think and Grow Rich, I interviewed the successful originators that we had within our company. And I tried to get into a very deep level with them, because when I would ask them, well, why are you successful? How come you're such a good producer? I would get answers like, well, you know, I work hard, and I always communicate well with my borrowers and the realtors, and I'm always available, and I know my stuff, and you know, all that stuff is kind of helpful, but why are you really successful? And is it a relationship with the people that you're working with? And the deeper I got, the more it seemed to me that the things that the successful originators were doing were developing relationships, and they were getting people to know them, like them, and trust them. Because the thing that I've found over the years in the business, if you can get people to know you, like you, and trust you, then they will look for ways to send business to you. And that's really been kind of the basis for my philosophy in this business, getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. And so everything that I do is kind of through that focus to make sure that I'm doing things to get people to know me, like me, trust me. And it's based on really a strong personal relationship that I've tried to establish with my clients and referral partners. And I think anybody who's been in this business for any length of time will tell you it's a relationship business. And the deeper you can establish those relationships with your clients and your referral partners, the more successful I think you tend to be. And what do I mean by that as far as establishing strong personal relationships? Well, I really try and get to know people on a personal level, whether it's my clients or the real estate agents that I'm working with or other referral partners. I try to get to know people, and I take a sincere interest in that. I enjoy learning about people and their families and where they grew up and about their job. I mean, I spend a lot of time with clients when I first meet them talking about what do they do and what exactly does that position mean and what do you do on a daily basis. And they love talking about that, and I love getting to know more details about what it is that they do. And it really helps to deepen that relationship. We talk about different interests. Are they sports fans? Do they like to exercise? What do they like to do in their free time? And just really try and get to know them as well as I can. Another thing I've learned over the years is that people love to brag about their children. So I always give them the opportunity to talk about their kids and what they're doing, what activities they're doing, what are they involved in, whether they're grown children and made a successful career for themselves, or kids in t-ball and having a great time in soccer or dance or whatever it is that they're involved in. So, and once I do get to know people and learn more about them, one of the keys for me has been that I make copious notes. I really try and make sure that I record as much information as I can remember about people, because that's going to come in handy later on when I stay in touch with them over the years. So get to know people, ask the questions about it, listen attentively, and trying to be a good listener is not just asking good open-end questions. It's also listening sincerely to what they have to say and then asking appropriate follow-up questions as well, just to make sure that people understand that I truly am interested in getting to know more about them. So that's kind of where I start the process. I certainly try whenever I can, especially I know a lot of times these days the meetings tend to be over the phone, but I always try and meet the client the first time face-to-face to try and help establish that relationship, because I think you can communicate a lot more effectively when you have the right body posture, the right eye contact, the right facial expression, to make sure that people understand that you truly are interested in getting to know them. So that's one of the things that's been important to me. One of the best teachers of that I found, and I did this early on in my career, is I read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And even though it was written in the 1930s, to me it's a classic, and it's always been, I think, the best sales book ever written, because it really helps to get you to understand the nature of relationships and human nature. And that hasn't changed in the 80-plus years since Carnegie wrote the book. It's just a very powerful tool. So if you haven't read it, it's a pretty short read, but I would recommend it to you highly as far as getting to know people, establishing relationships that are going to stand you in good stead down the road. One of the other things that I try and do is when I talk to my clients, I try to talk to them as if they're friends. And a lot of times I'll get a call from a client and they'll say, hey, Stan, I worked with you about 6 years ago to get my loan. You probably don't remember me. And you know what? I do remember them, and we'll talk about why in a little bit here. But I do remember them. I remember their spouses' names. Many times I can remember information about their kids or their dog or what they like to do. But when they call, I always act happy to hear from them because I am. It's like 80 to 90% of my business year in and year out is former clients coming back and referrals from former clients. So I am, of course, happy to hear from them because it means more business for me, and I'm able to help them once again or their family members or friends. So I talk to my clients as if they're friends. I try and kid around with them good-naturedly. I like to do the bantering whenever possible. I mean, it's not appropriate for all your clients. Some you're going to have that are more serious than others, but to the extent that I can have some good-natured kidding around, I think that helps to break down the barriers and make for a little bit better relationship. I also try, because I'm trying to get to know people, I also try to share some personal things about myself and my family, because I've found that it does help if you share more about yourself. I'm trying to get people to know me on a personal level, just like I'm trying to get to know them on a personal level. For example, my son and I, who's 16, are trying to get to all 30 major league ballparks before he goes off to college. And we're at 18 now, and we've got 12 to go, and I continue to give my clients updates on that when we talk about things because they're interested. They think it's a cool thing, and I enjoy sharing that with them. I just also did a rim-to-rim in the Grand Canyon this past weekend, and boy, what an adventure that was. And so I was telling people I'm doing the training for this, but just sharing stories of myself with my clients to help them to get to know me as well as me getting to know them. So I found that was helpful as well. Let's see, what else? I try and have somebody from our company, whether it's me or one of my people that work here, attend the signings. So many times there's something that comes up at the last minute. There's questions that they have, especially if it's the first time they've gone through the process or they haven't done it in a while. It's kind of a scary experience for them, all these legal documents in front of them. And it's comforting to have someone from our company there to answer any questions, to make sure that they're going to go through the process smoothly. So that's one of the things that we've been consistently doing over the years. Another thing we do is to prepare on a purchase transaction a closing book. And the closing book it's a 3-ring binder, and it has a picture of their house on the front. And it's got folders or envelopes inside where they can put a copy of the appraisal, which we provide to them. They can put their home inspection in there. They can put their insurance policy in there. There's a way for them to keep track of different home improvements that they've done. But it's just the thoughtfulness of providing something for them to organize their information about their house. So they do like that. We also prepare change of address cards for them. And this is something that we provide a dozen change of address cards. Again, it's got a picture of their house on the front. It allows them to send a notice to their friends and family that shows a picture of the house and just to let them know that they've got a new address and here's where it is. We also send out via email a copy of the HUD-1 from all of the previous year's transactions. So we send that out in the first week of January. And that's something that we started doing many years ago. We found that it's helpful to remind people that, hey, you're going to need this document come tax time. Your CPA or someone who helps you with the taxes, or you, if you prepare your own taxes, are going to need some of the information that's contained on this HUD-1 settlement statement. So we just scan them in, and then we send them out all in mass in the first week in January, and we've gotten some good feedback on that. One of the things that I do that's probably been the most successful tool that I've used over the years is sending a personal note to people on their birthdays, and also sending along 2 movie passes from a local theater chain called Harkins Movie Theaters. And it used to be, I first started sending out birthday cards to people with personal notes, and I got practically no feedback at all, no acknowledgement that they'd received it, nobody mentioned it. And I thought about that, and I thought, you know what, maybe I should try something a little bit different. So I started with the idea of sending out 2 Harkins movie passes with each birthday note. And I was amazed at the difference in the response. it was incredible. People would call, they would send me a nice note back, they would shoot me an email, and it was really something that made a remarkable difference because now I really stood out in a very positive way. If you think about it, how many of you have had a birthday card or a birthday note from somebody that you've done business with? Maybe your insurance agent or your financial planner, whoever it might be. You might get a birthday card or a birthday note, and maybe even a personal note. But how many people send out something of value with that? And I would have to tell you, I haven't received anything like that over the years. So it allowed me to stand out in a positive way, and people don't forget me because I do send them 2 Harkins movie passes on their birthday. Now, if it's not appropriate for a movie pass, then I send out a $10 Starbucks card, but it's the same principle. You send something of value, you stand out in a positive way, you remind people that you're there. And speaking of that, asking for business is not something that personally I've felt real comfortable with doing over the years. I'm not a real aggressive person when it comes to that. But I've found a way that seems to work for me as far as asking for the business. And that's anytime I have communication with my borrowers, I always end up with the phrase, please let me know if I may ever be of assistance to you, your friends, or your family. And that's become kind of my tagline. So please let me know if I may ever be of assistance to you, your friends, or your family. And so people get the idea that I do appreciate them referring clients to me. It is something I do appreciate, and that's my way personally that I've found comfortable in asking for the business, and it seems to work well for me. Everybody's going to be doing it a little bit differently, but that's what seems to work for me. One of the other things, too, is that I do continue to send out birthday cards and things of value, even if people move. And this is something I do track, which maybe I'll digress here for a little bit and say that we use a service called RealQuest. And it's provided by CoreLogic, and I don't know if anybody is familiar with it, but we've been using it for many years. It's a wonderful tool because it enables us to look up information about any property. We signed up for just our county here that we do business in, Maricopa County, but it allows us to go ahead and look up information on the property. So we can find out square footage, lot size, legal description, property taxes. It also gives us a lien history, so I can find out if my clients have been loyal to me or not. So by going on, and I do have the person at the front desk do this, I don't do this myself, but before I send out my birthday notices, I have them go through RealQuest and look up every single one of my clients and all of the properties that they've been doing business with me on. And if they have actually gone and taken out a mortgage with somebody else, I'll know about it. It doesn't happen very often, like 5 to 10% of the time is what we find, but it does allow me to then approach them in a different manner, and they're probably not going to get 2 Harkins movie passes if they've gone and refinanced with somebody else. But it allows me to kind of cull the list a little bit for those people who may not be interested in doing business with me in the future. So it's been a real good tool. It's RealQuest from CoreLogic, and it's a very helpful data-based management tool, so it helps you keep on top of things. But even if somebody moves out of state, if somebody sells their house here and moves out of state, I still stay in contact with them over the years. Still send them the personal note, still send them something of value. I'll send them a $10 Starbucks card. And you'd be surprised how many people over the years have either come back to the Phoenix area and done business with me again, and they haven't forgotten about me because I've stayed in touch, or they've continued to refer friends and family members who do live in the Phoenix area because I have taken the initiative to stay in touch with them over the years, even though they've moved out of town. So that's something that's been probably the single most valuable tool for me. Another thing I do relating to birthdays has to do with their children, and this I've found to be a very powerful tool as well. If I can get the kids' birth dates, then we'll send them a Cold Stone Creamery $5 gift card on the kid's birthday. And if you want to get in tight with the parents, if you get in good with the kids and the kids are excited to get something from me on their birthday and it's ice cream, it's a wonderful thing. And I would tell you that's gone over very well also. These things do add up as far as the cost goes, especially the movie passes. We pay $6.50 for each movie pass, but the perceived value is much more, and the overall benefit that I get from doing that, I think, is many times a multiple of the cost that I incur on that. We also send out quarterly newsletters, and we used to send them out in the mail. We've just gone to doing it electronically now just because the cost is a lot less. We produce those ourselves. It's something that we try to make entertaining as well as informative. We don't make it too long, but it's just one more way to stay in touch with them. One of the things that I do also, getting back to trying to establish that personal connection with people, is that the family newsletter that I create for the holidays that I send out to all my family and friends is the same one I send out to every single one of my clients. And it just tells about what our family's been doing for the past year, what trips we took, what the kids are up to, how they're doing in school, what they're doing as far as activities, and lots of pictures. Not a lot of words, but lots of pictures because people seem to enjoy the pictures. And I get a lot of feedback on that, a lot of comments on that. They really seem to enjoy connecting with me like that. So that's important, I find, too. Another thing I do is that I'm a season ticket holder for the Arizona Diamondbacks, which is this past season nothing to be proud of. But I do go ahead and give away my 4 seats right behind the dugout on a pretty regular basis to people. And I hold drawings is what I do. I put out a word, email blast all of the clients on my database and just saying, hey, we're giving away 4 tickets for the D-backs game on Saturday night. Includes 2 valet parking passes. Anybody who's interested, respond back to this email, and we get an awful lot of response back. So again, it's just more and more ways to touch people in a positive way. They're happy to hear from me. I've also gone so far as to rent the swimming pool at Chase Field and invited clients to sign up for that. I had a tremendous response for that, too. I've also rented a suite, a party suite before, and invited clients. So again, just touching people in a positive way. We also send out an email to clients right before the spring break season comes along here, and also before the summer with a list of free activities, and just kind of giving them ideas of here's the things you can do with your kids and your family during spring break or during the summer. One of the things I've started to do recently is to try and utilize LinkedIn a little bit more. And I've tried to go back and connect with all of my clients in my database to the extent possible through LinkedIn. And now it's a standard process of what we do. Every time we have a new client, we try to connect with them on LinkedIn because it gives me more opportunities to be in touch with them. Because what will happen is that if you're familiar with LinkedIn, you'll get a notice if somebody's having an anniversary, a work anniversary that month, or if they take a new job, you'll get a notice of that. So anytime I see that, whether it's a work anniversary or it's a new job, then I'll go ahead and I'll send a personal email. I won't, and this is a key here, I think, I won't just respond to the LinkedIn just saying, say congrats. I'll go ahead and look up the email address for my client, send them a nice note, say that I saw that they're having a work anniversary at LinkedIn. Congratulations. That's quite amazing that you've been there for 14 years now in today's world. And then I always, again, end up closing. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to be of service to you, your friends, or your family. And you'd be surprised by how many times that's led to a referral or a refinance. People have just contacted me back saying, you know, I was thinking about maybe consolidating that first and second, or hey, I've been thinking about buying a second home in northern Arizona. What do you think? So it's just prompting people one more time in a positive way by saying congratulations. Also, because I get so much of my business as referrals from former clients, one of the things that I make sure that I do on a regular and consistent basis is I will send an immediate email out to my client that referred the other person, because it's important to acknowledge people for that. People like doing favors for me and sending friends and family, and I want to let them know how much that means to me, that they think enough of me that they would refer a family member or a friend to work with me, and that's huge for me. And so I want to make sure that I immediately respond, let people know how much I appreciate that, and then we also send another thank you after closing. Those are some of the basic things that I do. One of the things that, Eric, you and I talked about before we got on the webinar that I've just started to do recently that has had some positive impact for me, and that's contacting my FHA borrowers that I did loans for between about 2008 and 2011 to see if there's been enough appreciation in the value of the properties here in Arizona to be able to refi them either without mortgage insurance, or maybe put them on an LPMI that's still going to reduce their payments substantially compared to what they're paying now on FHA MIP, and that's started to see some good results here too. So that's something we've just taken on here lately. In addition to these things that I would call proactive that I've just gone through, there are some things that are more reactive, and that's answering questions that my clients will call me up for. I always really strongly encourage people to call me if I may ever be of assistance, and a lot of them take me up on that. They'll call asking questions relating to their property taxes. Gee, my property taxes went up. Should I be fighting this or contesting this? What do you think? If it's a servicing issue with the servicing agent where we've placed them, we'll certainly jump in the middle of that and try and help them. Sometimes they'll ask about how do I improve my credit scores because I applied for a car loan and I saw my credit score was down. Or how do I pay down my loan balance? Can I get a modification to a lower payment? And we kind of walk them through the process for doing that. Or how do I get rid of private mortgage insurance? I've had the home for a few years now. Can I get rid of the mortgage insurance? And maybe I'll digress here for a little bit just to get into something that I've learned to be helpful, and that is eliminating the mortgage insurance. There's two ways that are mandated by law. One of them is the 78% rule, which most of you are probably familiar with, and that is when normal amortization would take that loan to value on a conventional loan down to 78% based on that normal amortization. At that point in time, the mortgage insurance must be removed by the servicer. There's nothing that the borrower has to do. It happens automatically, and that's a given. However, what a lot of people don't know is that there's an 80% rule also, and the 80% rule has to do with when the mortgage balance is down to 80% of the original purchase price or value, no matter if it occurs through normal amortization or through accelerated amortization by making extra payments against the principal. When you get down to that 80% of the original value, you can petition the lender to remove the mortgage insurance. And all you have to do is work with them to provide an appraisal that shows that the property has not declined in value since that last loan was made. And as long as you can provide that appraisal showing that the property value has not declined since that last loan was made and you're at 80% of the original value, then the mortgage insurance has to be removed as well. And not a lot of people know about that. There's also another way by custom and practice that mortgage insurance is removed, and there's nothing that's written in any of the legal documents that will show this, but lenders, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, have been doing this for a number of years, and that is if you've had the loan and the mortgage insurance in place between 2 and 5 years, and you can show by a current appraisal that you have at least 25% equity in the property, then most lenders will work with you to remove the mortgage insurance, as long as your payment history is good and you don't have any other issues with your loan. After 5 years, as long as you can show by a current appraisal that you have at least 20% equity in the property, then again, lenders will usually work with you to remove the mortgage insurance. So if you're in an area where you've had some pretty decent price appreciation lately, then that's certainly a way that could be faster than waiting for the 80% or the 78% rule. So, and again, people do call about that, so we walk them through what needs to be done. We'll take a look at what the current value of the home is. We can pull comps here through RealQuest. That's another benefit, by the way, of RealQuest, because it allows you to pull comps and set up pretty much any parameters you want. So you can set it up for last 3 months, 6 months, 1 mile radius, 2 mile radius, half mile radius, pool, no pool, lot size, square footage plus or minus 20%, 15%, whatever you want to set the parameters on, you can go ahead and pull comps that way, and it's very helpful.
Absolutely. Hey, Stan, I want to interrupt you for just 1 second here. Guys, sure. I want you to remember one key thing here. Stan is a broker. Okay, he is a pure broker. His company does not receive any revenue of any kind from servicing. So really, Stan, this is one of the things that really truly impressed me about how you have stayed in contact with customers is, you know, we've kind of coined the phrase here, non-compensated services, and how much time and energy you and your team spend providing service to your customers that has absolutely nothing to do with the procurement of a new loan, right? And so I want to make sure that the audience is really perfectly clear in understanding that Stan, your company doesn't service loans, right? You don't receive any
No.
compensation of any kind whatsoever for those services. Now, some of you would think that we're completely nuts to do all this extra work and effort for no pay. However, what has it led to in the results in your business? I mean, Stan, you've mentioned that, well, go ahead and continue on with what you were sharing. I just wanted to reinforce that one key point that guys, there's a reason he does this, and you had a shift of mindset at some point, right?
Yeah, it certainly developed over the years. I mean, I didn't walk out of college understanding all of this stuff. This is a philosophy that's developed and evolved and continues to evolve over the years as I've learned things about relationships. But to me, it's all about the relationships and getting people to know you, like you, trust you. And the way that you do that is you earn it from them. And when they call with something that they need help with, that it's not going to provide any direct benefit to you, as long as I can cheerfully respond to those requests, even if there's nothing in it for me, whether it's whatever it is that it happens to be, whether they need a referral for a financial planner or a CPA or a title company or a realtor, which obviously gives me a good in with some of my referral partners, insurance agents, attorneys. I've had people call me with questions for, hey, do you know good bankruptcy attorneys? Like, what, you think I've gone bankrupt? What are you talking about? But people ask me all kinds of weird off-the-wall questions, and I do my very best to respond to it and respond to it cheerfully. I used to have to catch myself because I would sometimes get these requests, and I'd go begrudgingly, yeah, I suppose I could look something up for you. It's like, hey, if you're going to do it with a smile on your face, because it always comes across better if you're doing it with that type of attitude, and people pick up on that, obviously. So the last several years, it's always, hey, I'd be happy to help you, anything I can do to help. And that's just establishing that relationship that's so important to me over the years. What else? Oh, another thing that I would get and continue to get a lot, which kind of led to the development of another business that I've started, and that's I would get a request from one of my clients time and time again for mortgages outside of the state of Arizona. Now, as a broker, I'm only licensed in Arizona, and I would get a call from somebody that said, hey, Stan, I've loved working with you. I'm moving to Dallas. Can you help me with the loan? Well, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not licensed there. But tell you what I'm going to do as part of the service-driven mentality that we have here is that let me go ahead and make some calls on your behalf. Let me see if I can find somebody who's really good and will take great care of you in the Dallas area. If I do, I'll put you guys in touch, and then you guys go from there. And I'll back out. And I wouldn't get anything for that referral. I would just do it as a service to my clients. Or they would say, hey, my sister and husband are buying a house in Connecticut, and they're a little naive financially. Can you help them? I want to make sure they don't get taken advantage of. Same deal. I can't help you directly. Let me make a few phone calls to see if I can find somebody that's going to take great care of you. And that's happened enough over the years, I think, because of my relationships with my clients. They'll call me for things like that. And I typically get 10, 20, sometimes as many as 30 of those calls during a year. So I would continually be calling people, trying to find out who's providing great service in other parts of the country. And it led to this idea of creating a company that would do that called Premier Mortgage Network, because I had to be thinking, so I'm not the only one in the country getting these types of calls from the clients. Other people have to be receiving these calls as well. Why don't we create something that's going to be a nationwide referral network that we can refer business to one another across the country? So I can help my client no matter where their need is. I can help other people's clients when they have a need in Arizona when they can't help them directly. So that led to the creation of a company called Premier Mortgage Network, which was started. And the idea is that we refer business to one another when we can't help. And we've also created something that's called Premier Mortgage Referrals. And that is where any industry professional in the mortgage industry can utilize the network to make a quality referral when they have a need to do so. Now, they don't receive referrals if they're not a part of the network and not an annual dues-paying member, but they can take advantage of the accessibility of these people who have already pre-screened substantially and use those for making quality referrals for their clients as well to provide that higher level of service. And the nice thing about it, Eric, as you know, is that there's no cost to the people who are using the network, nor is there any cost to their client for using that network. So it's a free service. You can tap into the Premier Mortgage Network and be able to use that for making an employee referral.
Absolutely. And guys, one of the things that I think is so fabulous about what Stan has done is guys, remember that this was developed based on basically the sweat of his own brow. I mean, the fact of the matter was is you and your team and Tracy and some of the folks that I've had the opportunity to meet that are on your team at Premier Mortgage Network, these are really service-driven people. These are people who really put their heart out for every customer, and they have done an exhaustive amount of work to vet out the top professionals in a selected territory and market. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute, but for those of you who are interested in going ahead and taking advantage of being a part of the, having the opportunity to have your customers taken care of by some of the top originators in the country in these specific markets, you're welcome to go to premiermortgagereferrals.com. Go ahead and sign up for free for that. We'll talk a little bit more in a little bit later in the program about how to get access if you want to join the network, because there is a pretty exhaustive process. Remember, we're looking for the best of the best here. But, going back to kind of some of what you were talking about with, keep in mind, folks, that all of this grew very organically. All of this grew out of what Stan was doing to go way above and beyond in the creation of value for his customers. And I've put this slide up on the screen a couple of different times, this psychological value equation, value equals benefit minus cost. And we usually talk about this from the perspective of what this means from a profitability per loan standpoint when we're talking about, are we going to compete on price and constantly be challenged by somebody who's willing to undercut us just a little bit in points and fees, or are we creating more benefit that lives way above and beyond the value of any one closing or transaction? And as you guys can probably see here, Stan has embraced a mindset and methodology of operating his business, creating lifelong service relationships with his customers, and doing so in a way that doesn't create a fee-for-services type relationship, but has translated into a very, very strong growth in the flow of his business over the years. And you and I talked about, Stan, in preparation for this. One of the key questions that I asked you was kind of what were some of the pivotal moments or things that transitioned your career, and what were some of the key tools that led to that transition? So if you wouldn't mind, Stan, why don't you share with the group what you kind of shared with me in the past about how that came to be?
Well, I think the pivotal moment, as we talked about for me, was when I first started in the business in 1976. And like most of us who started back then, there wasn't any formal training program. My training consisted of going with my branch manager to call on a couple of drinking buddies of his in a real estate office that he had. And then my training from a technical standpoint was sitting with a processor that had just moved to Arizona from Ohio and had been in the business for 1 year, and she was supposed to teach me the ropes from the technical side of things. So it was pretty much sink or swim. You're thrown out there, and either you make it or you don't. And I would tell you, after 3 months, I wasn't making it. I was failing miserably. I wouldn't be able to get people to talk to me. I had no business whatsoever, not the first loan referred to me at all, nor had I even pre-qualified anybody. And I can remember the moment like it was yesterday. I was laying on my couch here in Phoenix in my apartment, and I was thinking about, maybe this business isn't something I'm cut out for. Maybe I should go down and take the civil service exam and go to work for the government. And then I let that sink in for a minute. And then I got mad. I got mad at myself for willingness to accept failure. And at that point in time, I had a life-changing event. It occurred to me that I will not accept failure. I will do whatever it takes to make a success of myself in this business. I will not fail. And I had that commitment then and there that said, okay, I'm going to make it. I don't care what anybody says, what anybody does, what obstacles are in my way. I'm going to make it. I'll figure it out. And that was the key for me. So I started to figure out what it took to be successful. I started looking at other originators that I ran into on the street that were successful and tried to think, why are they getting business and I'm not? What's the difference there? And one of the key things for me was their conveyance of an image of self-confidence. And then I thought about it. I go, well, wait a minute, let's break this down. Why do I think they are self-confident? What is it? Is it their posture? Is it their eye contact? Is it the way they talk? Is it what they do with their hands? What is it that makes me think, and others, that those people are self-confident? And I started to identify things that conveyed that image to me. And then guess what? I portrayed a role. I was an actor. It's like, okay, I know the role to portray. I know the things to do. I'm going to do it. And so I went out there and I faked it until all of a sudden people responded to me better because I was conveying that image of self-confidence. And then I started to do all kinds of research. I read books. I went to seminars. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich was powerful for me because that taught me the power of visualization. I mentioned How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer, which told me that I had the ability to control my thoughts and therefore my feelings. I went to a Jim Rohn seminar and learned about setting goals and how important that was, and realistic goals but lofty goals. I joined Toastmasters. I took a 12-week Dale Carnegie course. I was desperate and I was driven, but I was committed to my success. And then, you know what, shortly thereafter I started to experience it. And within about 3 months of when I started to take this type of action, I was the top producing loan officer in my branch. And then 6 months after that, only after a year in the business, the company wanted me to open a new branch for them in a different city. So I chose to do that as well. So it was a tremendous catalyst for change.
Definitely, definitely. So, Stan, I mean, you and I have talked about a couple of different ways in which, and you've already mentioned a few of them here with some of the seminars and the training you went to and invested in, and some of what that made for you, what impact that's had on your career growth. What other tool systems or resources were vital parts of that transformation for you?
Well, I think I've pretty much covered the things in the previous questions that we've talked about here, some of the systems and some of the tools that we've used. I mentioned RealQuest certainly has been a good tool for me. I think just the other things that I've done to try and stay in touch with my clients, because, I mean, it's a two-part process. You start to establish a great relationship with people, you provide good service, good communication, and then you stay in touch in a positive way religiously over the years. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I've done: establish the relationships and stay in touch. And if you can do that, then I think that's the key.
Absolutely. All right. So moving on, just guys, we're going to go to Q&A here in just a few seconds. But you know, Stan, one of the things I do want you to share, and I know you and I discussed whether this was appropriate or not, and I think it's an important part of the lesson here, is those of you who are listening on this call, you've heard some great ideas. In fact, I mean, Stan shared, I lost count at somewhere around 18 or 19 different ideas that Stan shared in just a very short few minutes of all the different ways in which he stays engaged with his clients and contacts. But what results is that producing for you these days? I mean, what has that led to in the production and growth of your business over these years?
Well, our business, as everybody knows, is a very much up and down business. There's great years, there's not so great years. But I went back and looked at it, actually, when you asked me that question a couple of months ago, and I've averaged about 18 closings per month since the year 2000. So over the last 15 years, I've averaged 18 closings a month. Obviously, some months better, some months worse, but that's been my average over that time period.
So, guys, what he is sharing does pay off. How many of you would love to be doing 18 loans a month consistently? Now, again, that was, 5, 10 years building, having started the company in 1994 to get to where he was doing 18-plus loans a month consistently by 2000, but having carried that now for over 15 years fairly consistently, obviously you can see the proof's in the pudding in that respect. Okay, so Stan, there's a couple of really good questions, and boy, there's a ton of great questions that have been asked, and I wish we had time for all of them. But I know that there's a couple of things that we want to make sure we share here. In fact, I don't know what your schedule looks like if you've got an immediate next meeting to run to. Either way, folks, keep going ahead and posting those questions because we want to make sure we get those answered for you. There is one question that keeps being reiterated, which is many folks have asked the question, how do they participate in the Premier Mortgage Network, and what exactly is Premier Mortgage Network? Could you share with us just a little bit, Stan, on what that Premier Mortgage Network involves, who those panelists are, and how you go through the selection of those candidates for the Premier Mortgage Network panel?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think just to share with you how we've been selecting our members, and it is a selection process. It's not something that somebody just says, hey, count me in, I'll pay the fee, that's great. It doesn't work that way. What we do is we're looking for either brokers or small mortgage bankers, someone who works for one of the big banks or for nationwide mortgage bankers probably isn't a good fit for our model to become a member of Premier Mortgage Network. We start with recommendations. Obviously, I've been in the business a long time, and I know a lot of people, so I start by asking those people that I know and trust in the business, okay, if you couldn't help your own mother with a loan, who would you refer her to? And then that's how we start. That's where we get names of people. Then before we even contact them, we'll do a very extensive background check. We'll Google the heck out of them to try and find anything good, bad, and different. We'll go through Better Business Bureau, NMLS, Angie's List, Yelp, Zillow. We talk to others who may know them in their marketplace. We try and find out, are these people really as good as that one person thought they were? If we come back with a clean slate and everything looks good, then we'll contact the person to gauge their interest in it. And if they do have an interest, then we'll interview them extensively to really get a feel for how they do their business, or are they going to be a good match for our network? Because the key here is getting people into the network who are service-driven performers, people who are taking the service to their clients to their utmost level. That's who we need, because that's what's going to make this thing work in the long run. If they pass that interview process, then they submit an application with references, and we thoroughly check the references, and only after passing all of these stages do we even extend an offer of membership. So having said this, if any of your listeners think that they're among the very best when it comes to servicing their clients, they're welcome to contact our business development manager, and that's Carol Benge, and her email is cbenge@pmnhq.com. That's cbenge@pmn for Premier Mortgage Network, HQ.com. And if you express an interest there, we'll certainly be happy to talk to you further about it.
Right, and as far as the availability of opportunity, again, guys, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. I spent a lot of time talking with Stan, your team, and Tracy, and Carol about what you really are looking for, and it's a pretty exhausting process if you're interested in participating. But the reward can definitely be there for you. As an originator participating. Stan, you have how many territories across the country, and how many of them are available at this stage?
Yeah, we've set up 303 individual territories, and one thing I didn't mention is it's only one member per territory. So anybody who is a member gets all of the exclusive rights to that territory. But we have 303 set up, and currently at this stage of our evolution, we've filled 35 of them.
Okay. So, guys, there's 270-something territories across the country that are available. If you really are, have a true service-driven mindset, if you really are looking to provide that extreme caliber of service that you hear Stan providing, again, the same type of service that you would provide your own clients, that you would do for them if they were, in doing a loan with you in a state that you are licensed, then you would do it yourself. But if you want somebody of that same caliber and you're interested in nominating yourself for that, the next step for you would be to send an email to cbenge, cbenge, at pmnhq.com, or for those of you listening on today's webinar platform, you are welcome to go ahead and post in the Q&A section of the platform that you'd be interested in nominating yourself for consideration. And keep in mind, guys, we are talking a relatively low investment. I think the membership is what stands somewhere around $300 a month, somewhere in that range.
Well, at this point, again, in this stage of our evolution, we're signing up people for $395 that we guarantee 6 months, and it's perhaps going to stretch into a little bit longer than that, but $395 for the first 6 months. As we create more value for our members, then that fee will go up, but that's only when the value is there.
Okay, great, great. All right, so I want to cover a couple of quick things, and actually I'm going to rewind just a little bit on some of the questions that you asked. You mentioned, in the some of the questions that are actually coming in are actually very, very strong. I wish we had time to get to all of them. But one of the key ones that popped out at me is when you were just in the very first stages of building your platform, building your network, building this level of relationship and quality, what were some of the things that you did initially? And I guess it's very similar to one of the questions that we sort of kind of preloaded in the conversation today, which is, if you were just starting out fresh in this industry, what lessons would you share with new originators in today's market? What were some of the things that you would do again if you had it to do over again, and what are some of the things that you would do differently were you starting fresh in this industry in today's market and environment?
Well, there's different ways to achieve success. The way that I've chosen through a relationship-based philosophy is certainly not the only way. I just don't feel comfortable doing internet leads or phone solicitation. For me, that's not a good fit. That's not to say that you can't be successful doing that, because I know people that are, but you just have to find a method of doing business that you feel comfortable with, that you can sustain, and just look for something that feels like it's a good fit for you. I think also you pretty much have to have, very much like I did in that epiphany way back in 1976, kind of like a burn the boats mindset. So once you've gotten ashore and you've made the decision to get in this business, burn the boats. There's no going back. The personal connections for me, I think that's valuable no matter what your business model is to establish those types of relationships. And then work your database. And that's something that I certainly didn't do at all when I was first starting in the business as an originator. We didn't even know about things such as databases. But I would certainly say work your database, have consistent communication, and that's one of the key things there is consistency with it. Have consistent communication with your clients in a positive way. Make it something that they're happy to hear from you instead of constantly sending something that's a solicitation for business. Offer something of value or something of interest to them. And again, just always have the focus. If you can get people to know you, like you, and trust you, they'll look for ways to send business to you. So anything that you do with your clients, do it with that mindset.
Definitely, definitely. Well, and you had shared one other thing with me just before the call. With the program, what are some of the things that would have sped up your process? And I know you've had the privilege of benefiting from a lot of training, a lot of coaching, and a lot of development. How important would that have been to you if you were able to access something like that back in when you first got started?
Incredibly helpful. It would have been a lot easier if they had coaches back then, but they didn't. So I kind of had to learn everything on my own. And if I had a coach, it would have certainly accelerated the process, would have kept me away from a lot of the pitfalls that I ran into. I think coaching would have kept me on track a lot better too, because it's so easy, especially when you get busy, to get sidetracked and you kind of lose your focus. And I know coaching certainly is very good at keeping you on track, keeping you focused, and doing the right thing. So, yeah, absolutely, getting the right coach can make all the difference in the world, no question.
Absolutely. And I didn't know from personal experiences, and we've talked about conversations, that Premier Mortgage Network and the opportunity for folks to participate in the Premier Mortgage Network by referring their customers in to that network for service in areas or states where they're not licensed wouldn't have ever come to fruition if were it not for your coaching relationship with my former mentor and coach, Tim Brahim, who is a strong resource as well. All right, well, just one last quick thing I want to mention, and we'll get back to some other Q&A here before the end of the program, but I'd be remiss if I didn't answer a couple of the questions that have been posted about where and how to get access to coaching and what options are available. course, maximum acceleration, that is what we do as a coaching company. We've been doing one-on-one coaching since 2004. We have in 2008 and 2009 expanded into offering actually 3 different levels of service: group and on-site training programs. There's a little bit difference. It's actually really 4. I should separate this on the slide. But basically, there are a couple of tenets of what we always do. One, we have a very service-oriented mindset approach, very similar to how Stan has built his practice. We focus and align very much from a values-based perspective when it comes to how we operate coaching. So for that end, we hold high accountability as one of the highest standards of our approach and our system for coaching. We engage regularly in touchpoint calls with all of our programs, as well as we never require long-term contracts or commitments in any of the 3 different levels of programming that we offer. Our home study course materials are materials that are available for a virtual coaching program. You can purchase these, and as a result, you can use them at your own disposal. I'll share with you in just a moment one of those programs is available and pertains very closely to what Stan shared with some of you today. Our second is a small group coaching program, which is kind of an 8-on-1 peer masterminding program that is done over internet and web conferencing. We also do offer on-site events. We have sort of a sales rally in a box program we call our Maximum Growth Summit, which we can tailor to the needs of an organization, anywhere from 5 to 500 loan officers that we can come in and organize for you. And of course, we have our one-on-one personal coaching. If you're interested in finding out more about the one-on-one group or live coaching events, probably one of the best opportunities to get that information is to register for what we call our strategy session, which is a one-on-one call with one of our coaches where you have the opportunity to talk one-on-one about what the goals are for you and your organization or your group, or if it's even for you as an individual producer or mortgage executive, to find out what coaching could do for you. We found the best way to understand the value of coaching is to experience it. So this is a no-cost, no-obligation service we provide. Of course, there are only a handful of them available each week. It's dependent on the open slots in our coaches' schedules. They are filled on a first-come, first-served basis, so if you are interested in participating, please jump on the Q&A. Let us know you'd like a strategy session, and our team will reach out to you to contact you for scheduling that appointment. Also, please make sure you post the best phone number and email address for getting that strategy session registered and on track. Otherwise, if you are interested in one of our home study coaching programs, one of the ones that is hotly in demand right now is, as the refinance business has leveled off and in many cases waned, purchase business is the focus of today. And if you want to know how to build strong, loyal, and highly powerful, committed partnerships with realtors, financial planners, CPAs, insurance agents, we've developed a program called the Double Your Income with Power Partners program. It teaches you step-by-step how to learn and implement what we call the Power Partner Development System, which covers all of the necessary steps to developing a strong and engaged partnership, how to attract, how to connect with and set up an initial interview with potential partners that you'd like to work with, how to filter them down and get them to where they are producing a high volume of purchase business and referrals. And of course, that is it's about a 15-hour program that walks you through in video. Regular retails for about $6.95. However, you can get it for $2.97 today. If you're interested, you can jump on our website directly and get access to that. Actually, if you go to mxlcoach.com/shop.html, or just go to our website, mxlcoach.com, click on the shopping tab, and then click in the first paragraph to enter our online store, you'll be able to see the information about it. And actually, if you want, I'll give you one additional little bonus discount for those of you who act quickly. We do have activated for the next 5 hours. If you want to go ahead and take advantage of the discount code DBLMAX in all capital letters. Of course, you go into the shopping cart, select the DVD digital box sets, click on the Double Your Income Web Shop series, and then when you open the shopping cart, it's got a button where you can apply the discount of DBLMAX. That'll knock an additional $50 off, and you will be able to get access to that Double Your Income program for only $247. let's see, what else was I going to do? For those of you who are interested, again, in participating in the Premier Mortgage Referrals program, if you would like to register as part of a member of the Premier Mortgage Referrals community to be able to refer your clients in for service in states you're not licensed, you're welcome to go to that website. Again, that is totally free. It allows you to provide that service beyond self, service-oriented mindset for that program just by signing up for free on the premiermortgagereferrals.com website. And again, if you are interested in nominating yourself, and again, remember, this is not for the faint of heart. This is the top 1% of originators in the country are who we're looking for. People like Stan who have, over an extended period of time, indicated a strong reputation for service-first driven business and practice, consistent with what I know all of you would like to achieve in your practices based on some of what Stan has shared with you today. And you all are welcome to nominate yourself for participation in the Premier Mortgage Network. Again, the 270 territories that are still available at this stage. If you're interested in participating in that nomination, you can post that in the Q&A right now. Again, let us know that you are interested in becoming and potentially applying for or nominating yourself for consideration to become a member of the Premier Mortgage Network. And of course, there's an extensive vetting process that Stan and his team will go through. The other option is go ahead and email Carol Benge, which is CBENGE at pmnhq.com. Again, pmnhq.com. And Stan and his team will get you started down the path for becoming a participant in that network. Stan, I'd be happy to, and if you can hang out with me for a few more minutes, you are welcome to hang around as long as you have time for it. I know you're very, very busy as well. So if there's any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience, you know, I wanted to give you one last opportunity before we have to close down the webinar here to share those concepts, and then if you tell us whether you're available to hang around if you want and answer a few more questions. Otherwise, thank you for coming on to the program again today, and thank you for sharing just a wealth of information that we'll need to decompress and review this video many times to get to pick up all the great ideas that you've shared today.
Well, thanks, Eric. I appreciate being on the program, and there's really nothing else I can think of at this point to add to it, unless anybody has any further questions.
Oh, great. Well, like I said, those of you folks who are listening in on the call, if you do have any additional questions you'd like addressed by myself or the rest of the team here at Maximum Acceleration, or by Stan and his team, you know, feel free to go ahead and post those in the Q&A at this point. And like I said, we'll be moving towards wrapping this up here in just the next few minutes. We actually still have a pretty strong audience on here. So any of you that are still remaining on the line, if you want to go ahead and post any questions, comments, suggestions on the website, feel free to go ahead and do that now. The second thing that wanted to look at here is okay, so a couple of quick questions that have been asked. I'll address very, very quickly about video for today's program and the PowerPoint for today, as well as Stan, I know you had just before the call volunteered to kind of share some of the talking points and ideas that you introduced us to earlier in the program. I know you said you'd get those typed up for us, and it'd take you a little bit of time, but that you'd have them in a couple of days. So
yes.
What we're going to do, folks, is after the program today, we will be taking the video, the PowerPoint, and the list of ideas from Stan, and we'll be sending all that out to you in the form of an email to all registered attendees for today's program. And we'll be getting that out here in the next couple of days. It will take us a little bit of time to get that pulled together. And just so you know, folks, that is a standard practice we offer here at the Maximum Performance webinar series, although it does normally take a day or two to finish the transcoding of the video so that it will play in a streaming format. We always make that commitment to you that we'll get that work done behind the scenes and get that information out to you within 48 to 72 hours. Okay, also some questions coming through about how to access Stan's network at Premier Mortgage Referrals and Premier Mortgage Network. Premier Mortgage Network, again, remember, is the member side for the panelists, the hand-selected and thoroughly vetted originators that are receiving those referrals. That's Premier Mortgage Networks. And then, of course, the free side to where you could refer into those network panelists, service providers, is premiermortgagereferrals.com. Again, you can gain and build additional trust and loyalty with your customers, kind of a pay-it-forward type of mindset. You can be assured that your clients are going to receive the very best service and quality of experience because of the caliber of originators that serve on the network panel, and of course it allows you to maintain that service-driven platform and achieve a much higher volume of repeat and referral customers by participating in that network. Again, that website is premiermortgagereferrals.com, premiermortgagereferrals.com, and you can go directly to that website and sign up to become a member, and there is no cost or long-term commitment for that as well. Okay, a couple of key questions that we can circle back to here if you want. One of the questions is the coaching relational, i.e. work with the same coach throughout the program. Kenny, that's probably a great question to address during one of those strategy sessions that I mentioned to you. Typically our coaching process at Maximum Acceleration is we put our clients through a pretty extensive battery of assessments, including the personality profile and quite a bit of background information that's gathered on clients before launching them into the one-on-one coaching program. As a result of that, we typically will assign one coach to work with you throughout the relationship unless there's a need to make a change of that type. Obviously several thousand clients having gone through the program by this stage of the game. We've gotten pretty good at matching coach and client and getting you based on your needs, your goals, your strengths and weaknesses, somebody who's going to be a great fit to really helping you take it to the next level in your personal production. Just looking back through some of the other questions here, Stan, are you seeing the questions? If you are, any of the questions that were asked here that you'd love to jump out and address?
I think I've been trying to answer them here in the last few minutes as we've been wrapping things up, and I think I've got them pretty well answered online here.
Okay, great. Some very positive feedback coming through from folks as well on this program. Some very strong things that we're seeing take place. So very much thank you and appreciate comments and feedback. Again, Stan, thank you so much for the wealth of information you've shared with us today, and we'll look forward to having you back on the program in the not too distant future. Again, remember, folks, the greatest opportunity to provide value in service particularly comes from those areas where we're providing service that's driven by the consumer's needs first. And today, Stan has shared with us a very shining example of the value of creating that kind of mission and mindset. And whether you believe in higher powers or karma, whatever your spiritual bent or background, good things come to those who give first. And leading with a service-first mindset, it usually pays off in spades. So I challenge you to step up your game in that respect and focus on what you can do to meet the needs of your customers first with limited thought or regard to the return on value for you, and you'll find yourself growing by leaps and bounds. It's been proven hundreds of times over in business and in life, and very much interested in hearing great stories from you through the future. So again, audience, thanks again for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time to invest into today's program. There's one last thing I want to challenge all of you to do just as we begin to wrap up and close out today's program. As I often close out these programs, we want to make sure that I'm just giving you a couple of quick highlights and some action plans. Next week's session, our next webinar installment series, our next episode in this webinar series, Maximum Performance Webinar, is Mr. James Charlotte. By popular demand, is coming back probably the most active and engaged webinar we've had. The Q&A log for that one was about 20 pages long. A true expert in the field of credit education, current head of credit education for NASCO, the National Association of Credit Services Organizations, a former experienced executive and a true master of what it really takes to win the credit scoring game, is going to be back again with us next week, Tuesday, October 14th, sharing how to become a credit coach. All right, last thing first, as we wrap up today's program, you've invested in a substantial amount of your time in participating in today's learning experience. You've been shared with a plethora of amazing and very powerful business development ideas and strategies that Stan has shared with you today, and you'd be remiss to have invested that hour and not do something with it. So take one last couple of seconds here before you answer that next phone call, before you return that next email. Invest just a smidgen more time, another 30 to 60 seconds, to do this little four-step implementation process. One, what was the most valuable thing you heard in this program? The one idea you want to implement first. I mean, like I said, I lost count, somewhere around 19 of the different strategies that Stan does to stay engaged with his clients and keep top-of-mind awareness and high-value long-term relationships in place. What's the first idea you want to make sure you implement? Make that decision. Two, what is your action plan for making that a part of your business on a daily basis? Three, what is your target completion date for implementing that action plan? And four, who is going to be your accountability partner in making sure that you stay on course with that action plan? In 1998, Brigham Young University did a research study on what it took to take ideas and make sure they got implemented. And they uncovered there were four primary things you needed to do. One is you needed to have a goal. Two was you needed to have a specific, detailed action plan for achieving that goal, step by step. Three, you needed to have target dates for each of the major milestones along the path to achieving that goal. And fourth, if you had an accountability partner to hold you accountable and check in with you regularly in the progress towards that goal at each of those key benchmarks or milestones, if you did those four things, you would have a 95% chance of implementation. So if there's anything my team or I can do to help enhance that for you, please do not hesitate to ask. Just let us know that you're interested in finding out more about the coaching programs that we offer. You're welcome to, of course, post in the Q&A that you are interested in one of those no cost, no obligation strategy sessions. Go ahead and post the best phone number and email address for us to reach you for scheduling. Again, one last time, if you have not already gone to the Premier Mortgage Referrals website, I challenge all of you to do that as soon as possible. Like I said, there is no cost, no obligation whatsoever to participate in the Premier Mortgage Referrals Network, the Premier Mortgage Referrals community, where you will be able to access the highest caliber originators in the country for service in areas where you are not licensed, and therefore able to make sure that your customers are experiencing the highest caliber of service in procuring loans in states where you're not licensed. That is a no-cost service available to you. Just all you have to do is take 5 minutes to sign up on the site, join the network. There's no reason not to. I mean, in many cases, you'd be kind of silly not to become a member of that free community. Otherwise, if you are interested in finding out more about or nominating yourself for consideration for one of the open territories for the Premier Mortgage Network panel of service providers, you are welcome to email Carol Benj at cbenj@pmnhq.com to let her know that you are interested in beginning the due diligence process to nominate yourself for potential membership in the Premier Mortgage Network of service providers. Otherwise, we want to thank you for joining us today, and if there's anything else, like I said, my team or I can do to help you power up your business and get from where you are to where you want to go faster, please do not hesitate to reach out to my team, ask, and from there. We hope you have a great week. Take these ideas, strategies, and concepts and do something with them to make a difference in your community. So with that challenge, I'm going to leave the platform open for just a few more minutes here